Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So we are now only 2 days away from the 2025 NHL draft. I've been pumping out a shit ton of content regarding this draft, but today I'm kind of flipping the script and putting it on you guys to send me your draft takes. I asked you on Instagram and Beyond Hockey. Make sure you're following so you don't miss the chance to get featured in these videos for your draft takes. Certain players that you think are going to go much higher than people are anticipating, or certain guys that you think are absolutely going to fall, teams that could potentially trade up, trade down. We're going to go through it. We got like 20 of them. Thank you to everybody that did submit takes. If you've been following this page for a while, you know how this works. Let's dive into it. Let's not waste any time. Let's hear your takes and see how they are. Liam Brentineel says the Habs trade up to top 10. And yeah, I think this makes all the sense in the world, especially a team like Montreal that after this season, a lot of their young core is locked up in NHL proven. They need quality over quantity in terms of young guys. I'm not saying I would hate if they kept the 16th or 17th overall pick, but at this point, especially in this draft where I do think that there is a little bit of a tear off at like 12th, 13th overall, where there might not be some amazing guys at 16 to 17. If you could potentially trade into the top 10, I would definitely look at that if I'm Kent Hughes. They still have a top, again, they have a bunch of young NHL proven guys, and they still have like a top 5, top 3 prospect pool. So yeah, I think quality over quantity if I'm the Montreal Canadiens, and I would get aggressive in terms of adding another high level prospect. I don't think a trade is out there to bring in their second line center of this core, trading that 16th or 17th overall. I wouldn't do something aggressive like that, but to move up in this draft, it makes a lot of sense in my opinion. Next up, MJ is not good, 24. Boston trades kind of the flip side. Boston trades 7th overall for a dumb package, which ends with a Sweeney firing. And yeah, I could definitely see Don Sweeney saying like, although I got an extension, like I got to make the playoffs next year or else I'm probably getting fired. They have enough money to fire me and swallow the rest of those years. And yeah, there's been rumors that they're interested in some guys. Alex Romanov's name came up. If we could somehow give up Romanov in the 2026 Colorado pick for 7th, that'd be a steal. But I definitely could see Don Sweeney do something like that, where he adds a good second line guy, a good second pair guy, but not a serious difference maker where this team makes the playoffs the following year. And they get that player as well as a late first round pick or an early second round pick. And he says, I'm still thinking about the future, but also we got David Pastrnak, we got Charlie McAvoy, and it ends up being an absolute disaster. I think that they should stick at 7th overall, just considering the fact, in my opinion, the 3 through 8 kind of this draft, there's not some huge difference. And I think that they are going to have the potential to get a legit first line center. Yes, it's going to take 3 to 4 years probably for that player to develop, but the upside is so clear with that. And this team is not 1 or 2 pieces away from getting back to contendership at this point. That's just the God honest truth. So I would stick there. But as you said, this is Don Sweeney we're talking about. And what he's done in the last year does not give me a ton of confidence in terms of making the right call for this team going forward. Next up, CMAC336699. Ryabkin falls to the 3rd round. And yeah, there was reports that certain teams have Ryabkin just like straight up on a no draft list. Like even if he's there in the 7th round, we ain't even considering taking him. And yeah, it's about the character. It's about the compete level. It is very concerning. And even from a skill standpoint, although I think skill-wise he is still a top 50 guy, there is definitely serious concern even about the skill. And then when you add on top of the rest of it, apparently teams are scared. Teams are very scared. I would still take him late 2nd, early 3rd round pick, definitely, and just pray that he can figure it out and maybe has a little bit of a wake-up call. But at the end of the day, I think, yeah, if I was putting an over-under on his draft position, I'd probably say 50th overall at this point. I'd be shocked if he goes in the 1st round, considering what we're hearing about him, but anything is possible on draft night. We all know that. Next up, Kyle Beelan says golden age of U.S. hockey is over. And yeah, he's kind of cooking on that one. When looking at the U.S. hockey from like 2015 to 2019, Jack Eichel, Austin Matthews, Matthew Tkachuk, Kyle Connor, Zach Werenski, Adam Fox. Did I say McAvoy already? 2018, Quinn Hughes, Jack Hughes, of course. Like they had an insane run where they were genuinely pumping out more high-level guys. Again, from like 2015 to probably like 2022 maybe. Like they were definitely on the same level as Canada. And Canada kind of had a bad stretch from 2018. And bad again by their own standards compared to any 5-year stretch before that. But Canada from 2018 to 2022, I'd say, was not that impressive in terms of top pumping out high-level guys. But recently it's flipped back to Canada. That's just the God's honest truth with Bedard, Celebrini, Fantilli, the drafts ahead, Misa, Schaefer, Martone, DuPont, Rubrick, McKenna. Like it is swinging back. Still, I think the United States is pretty safely 2nd in terms of pumping out high-level talent. But yeah, it just looked like everything perfect happened for the U.S. national team development program from that. They gained the prominence, amazing development across the board. Last 2 years have been kind of underwhelming for the U.S. national team development program. Hopefully they can get back on track. But yeah, it's looking like it's becoming Canada's sport yet again. But still, they're in a far better spot than they were before 2010, where they were so far below Canada, of course. Next up, Emmerich Druin says Justin Carbono top 10. And yeah, I may, in my prospect rankings, go watch that. I said he's kind of like the forgotten forward. I had him either 14th or 15th. But what this guy does is what every team wants in terms of a winger. High-level skater, great shot. So I could easily see him go maybe even 8th to the Seattle Kraken, although they think that they should draft a defenseman. They need wingers. They have centers. 9th overall, Buffalo makes perfect sense in Buffalo in terms of wingers. They have so many goddamn centers. They have a bunch of left-handed defensemen. If Radim Merca goes 8, I could easily see Carbono at 9th overall. Anaheim Ducks with their forward core, with especially their centers. They definitely need some help on the wing. So Carbono, yeah, could he go top 10? Definitely. He definitely has the tools that could intrigue some teams, and it would not surprise me too much. Next up, Kale Miker, 2010, says Oilers trade up to draft a goalie, probably Ivan Kovic. I disagree with that. I think back in 2021, it made sense to trade up or to draft Jesper Wallstedt instead of who did they draft? Xavier Bourgault, or they traded back. At this point, you should not be. Also, I think Ivan Kovic's going to go in the second round, so this would hypothetically be like trading their next year second to get within like the 50th range or something like that. It doesn't make sense for the Oilers at this point because Ivan Kovic's not going to be ready for 4 to 5 years probably. Like back in 2021, McDavid and Draisaitl were still 24 and 25 or something like that. Like it made sense like in 3 to 4 years, Wallstedt could be really going when those guys are still in their prime. At this point, the Oilers, they need to acquire a veteran goaltender who really cares about a prospect like that, but definitely an interesting take, to say the least. Next up, another Vic, Lyndon Lacovic, rises and goes top 10/12. And yeah, just like I mentioned about Carbono, even more so with the big trend that's going on with the in the NHL right now is drafting big ass dudes, and Lacovic fits that build at 6'4" with a lot of skill. Really performed on a dog shit Moose Jaw team this season. So yeah, I think who would be more likely to go top 10, Lacovic or Carbono? I think it might be Lacovic, just because, especially with Pat Verbeek drafting 10th overall, that is definitely a Pat Verbeek pick to take another big ass winger like he did last year with Beckett. Seneca. Aitchison goes top 7. I could see Aitchison maybe going top 10 to a Buffalo, to an Anaheim, to maybe it's a Seattle. Top 7 is not going to happen, though. Top 7 is going to be a forward. The Boston Bruins, if they draft Aitchison 7th overall, and I like Aitchison a decent amount, but if they pass up Higgins, O'Brien, like a good forward, Martone, there would be riots. He might as well trade the pick for an okay second or a good second liner at that point. Next up, Phil. I'm going to botch your last name out, so I'm just not going to disrespect it. There is no superstar, but there is about 8 future stars. And yeah, even though I love Schaefer, do I think that he's going to be a consensus, no doubt, top 3 defenseman, superstar during his prime? I don't. Yeah, I think that there's going to be Schaefer, Misa, Star, and then I think out of Higgins, Frundell, Martone, I like Carter Bear a lot, as well as Caleb Desnoyers, and who else? Roger McQueen, if he hits. You could have some high-level players in this draft, but compared to 2023, 2024, what we think is going to happen in 2026 and 2027, there's not really that high upside, potential heart-level guy, top 10, no doubt players. But yeah, that's why I think a lot of teams want to trade within this 3 to 8 range, because they see guys that, in their opinions, could be stars that maybe other teams don't think are going to be stars. Next up, Kale Doc says Carter Bear falls. And yeah, I love Carter Bear, again, in my top 40 rankings. I have him 7th in this year's draft. So whoever drafts him, if it's outside of the top 10, I'm going to absolutely love that pick. But yeah, when looking at it, as we just talked about before, some teams really value size. Lacovic, Roger McQueen, Jackson Smith, Radim Merca, Carter Bear, who although is a very physical guy and I think could be a Brandon Hagel or Turi Lehkonen type, would not shock me one bit if, because of the lacerated Achilles, although that really shouldn't be a concern, he's already back and healthy, I could definitely see him falling to 13th, 14th, 15th. Montreal Canadiens back-to-back. They should keep those picks if Carter Bear is going to be there. But yeah, it's definitely possible right now. Ben McOx says Pens trade Raquel in the 11th overall pick for Michelli, for the 4th overall pick in Michelli, and then draft Porter Martone. And yeah, I guess I can get behind this. Michelli being a young guy that can play a lot more in Pittsburgh compared to on Utah, where he was only playing like 13 minutes a night this season, previously 55-point seasons, as well as getting a guy like Porter Martone. I guess in this, you're basically just saying you would have got a first and a second round pick, a late first and a second round pick for Raquel. So that makes sense. Like if we're talking the 11th, the 27th, in the 56th for 4th in Michelli. That makes decent sense in my opinion for both parties. And for Utah, they could probably still get Brady Morton at 11th overall. So they pick up some more assets going forward, as well as Rickard Rakell, of course, considering the fact that they're trying to win as soon as next season. Detroit won't make their draft pick from Mateo at 13th overall. And yeah, I could see a reality where Steve Eisman says, I need the last piece of my rebuild. I'm trading up. I'm getting within that top 10, potentially getting a center, which Detroit needs, considering the fact I like Marco Casper a decent amount. Dylan Larkin is like 29 years old at this point. So for a Raymond, for some of their young guys, they maybe do need that future number 1 center. That could be a James Higgins, could be a Caleb Desnoyers. But I also could see him trade back or trade out of the pick and say, next season, I got to keep my job. I got to survive, so I'm getting immediate help. So I think Detroit is an ultimate wild card in this year's draft. I can't wait to see what happens. It's going to be really, really interesting. Next up, Oliver Awesome 42. Roger McQueen will go top 7. And yeah, looks like we know what our top 3 is. Utah, I don't think it's going to be Utah. I could see Nashville. I could see Barry Trotz falling in love with the physical tools of Roger McQueen. Philadelphia, I wouldn't completely bet on it, but Boston, I think there would be a decent shot that Roger McQueen could go there. I'd put this at 33%. We'll just call it a third that Roger McQueen goes within that. If teams are not scared of the physicals, might be a 50-50 coin toss just because the potential is so clear with Roger McQueen. Spencer Barron 9 with my favorite one. The Islanders get Higgins somehow. And yeah, Darsh, I have a feeling that Darsh is going to try to make this happen. I wouldn't obscenely overpay to make this happen because I don't really have Higgins. I don't have Higgins as a top 4 prospect, not to spoil my top 40 rankings so much throughout this video. I think he can be a first-line center. But yeah, if you're Darsh and you can make this happen, like you have bought so much goodwill with the fan base as well as the ownership. So ownership definitely wants James Higgins, considering they can sell the fact of the hometown kid getting drafted. But yeah, they have pieces to potentially make it happen. Obviously, Dobson and Utah makes sense. Just Dobson in general is the key piece. Boston, interested in Romanov. That might have to be Romanov JGP 2026 first, and like even more on top of that. But that could potentially work. Like the Islanders have a lot of RFAs as well as potentially tradable guys that there could potentially be a James Higgins trade. I'd probably put that at 36% right now that James Higgins. No, that's way tue high. I'm biased. 22% that James Higgins is a New York Islander. We got about 4 left. Sam says Rashne is a top 13 player in this class. And yeah, Rashne might be one of the biggest boomer bust guys, undersized, but the playmaking is so intriguing with him, and there's so much high-end upside. I'd be shocked if he ends up going top 13 in this draft, because what I've been talking about before, I think guys really value size and physicality. Rashne does not really bring either. So yeah, I understand that thought process. I didn't have him top 13 in my top 40 rankings, but definitely an interesting take, and I can see where you're coming from. Next up, we got this from Smurf Wait 27. Jackets trade their 2 first-rounders to the Sabres for JJ Peterka. And yeah, that would definitely be an interesting trade. If I'm Columbus, I don't know if it would cost that much, but I think JJ Peterka would make a lot of sense. Playing alongside an Adam Fantilli, playing alongside a Ken Johnson, he would really be the final piece of that forward core. And maybe if you're a little bit concerned about Caden Lindstrom going forward long-term with those injuries, you just slot in JJ Peterka, give him a 7/7.5 for his entire prime. That'd be good. And for Buffalo, if they could get 14th to 20th overall, that'd be awesome. Again, I don't think it would cost that much, but very intriguing from that regard. Next up, Luca says Ravensburgen to Carolina. And yeah, I think Carolina should potentially target a guy like Ravensburger. Kochetkov, good 1B, maybe can be a 1A. Don't think he's ever going to be a legit starter. You cannot rely on Freddie Anderson considering he's 35, 36 years old and always goddamn hurt. I'm not aware if they have a later a goalie prospect that is on the horizon relatively soon. So I would definitely look at taking a goalie if I was the Carolina Hurricanes. They're set in terms of young defensemen with Nicky Shin and Morrow. Forwards loaded with U25 guys. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense for the Carolina Hurricanes. Ravensburgen, I would be shocked if he's not the first goalie off the board again. Ivan Kovic, a little bit undersized. People just don't like 5'11", 6-foot goaltenders. Ravensburger and Bergen, the exact opposite of that. And I think he's probably going to be a late first, early second round pick. And then lastly, Harris 2003. Sharks take Frundell at 2. And yeah, this is the big rumor that's going on right now. I'm a Misa guy. By a decent amount compared to over Anton Frundell. I could see where the Sharks are coming from. Not that Misa is the same player as Mac and Celebrini. Actually, the Elite Prospects draft guide had Celebrini as his comparison. I don't fully agree with that. But Anton Frundell is definitely a little bit of a different spice compared to Michael Misa, compared to Mac and Celebrini as their 1-2 center combo. Yeah, I wouldn't hate it, but I just do think Misa at the end of the day is the better player. And if you're San Jose, you should definitely be going for the better player, especially when they're both centers. But yeah, this would definitely be interesting. Frundell's shot is just special. It is special. Misa has a good shot within his own right, and I could see where San Jose is coming from, but I personally would not do it. Let me know in the comments, though. What do you think about these draft takes? Which ones do you agree with? Which ones do you not? Drop yours down below. I'll try to respond to it and tell you what I think. I'll be seeing you in the next one. Mock draft coming soon. Peace.